Hey there, nerds. Jimmy Palmquist here with my trusty sidekick.
James.
And today we're talking about Christopher Nolan, kind of in two aspects. First up, we'll talk about Interstellar being re-released in theaters, and it's a hard ticket to get.
I didn't think Interstellar coming back to theaters would be such a hard hit because most people, like, there was a huge fascination with the soundtrack for a brief stint in this year, but I was not expecting it to sell out the way it did. And I am intrigued because I just learned that originally it was not as beloved as it by the general audience as I thought it was when it first released.
It's funny you say that because Mommy and I saw it in the theater. We, at that point, were still watching every Christopher Nolan movie that came out in theaters. We must have found a babysitter. I don't know. Good luck. But we went and saw it, and the film ended, and Mommy had some questions, but she loved it. I absolutely loved it. Loved the new way of looking at things, specifically black holes. I literally am from the generation that watched Disney's Black Hole, so that's what I thought of black holes. So to see this new configured, oh my gosh, the way it ties up at the end, the acting, the actors, everybody in it, it was so good, phenomenal. I loved it. And ironically, Brandon and I had been joking about it on Nerd Locker, being like, Warner Brothers gave up the rights to future Christopher Nolan movies in order for him to make a movie about corn. That's what it was like corn. But then when we saw it, I was like, oh my God, I love this movie. And I'd forgotten that it was mixed reviews by the audience until you brought it up. And I'm like, oh my God, I do remember talking about it. And people were like, oh, I hated it. It was so stupid. I'm like, I thought it was like one of the best movies I've ever seen. And you're telling me it was horrible. That I don't know where we're missing things, but holy cow, what?
Which is hilarious to me because it eerily reflects a certain Stanley Kubrick classic, 2001: A Space Odyssey. The general audience did not care for that movie when it first came out. And of course, it's become an absolute classic as time has gone on. Same with Interstellar. And I find that happens with most space opera, is that you are given this just far-flung space concept, no matter how grounded it seems, and there will just always be this air of I don't like it with people, and that's how it goes. Interstellar is by all means one of the most beautiful films I've ever watched. It is also one of the most scientifically accurate I've ever watched, and that is just impressive. The black hole was actually like they took data from actual physicists doing calculations and rendered it, and it took them like 100 hours to do it. But it's like, it is the most accurate depiction we have of a black hole on film. And so much of it uses real world physics and is informed by real world physics. So it never feels like it's impossible. There is plausibility in this film. And what I love the most is that I have always thought to myself, like I've come up with stories, and my father can attest to this, where it's like how time travel would work. And like this idea I've always had that time travel is like accessing the fourth dimension, where you can no longer interact with physical things, but you can move through time. And that's not exactly how this movie works, but it does bring in the idea of fifth dimensional beings. And people are like, well, fifth dimensional beings, we live in the third dimension. That's wrong. We live in the fourth dimension. So common misconception. We live in 3 dimension of space-time and 1 dimension, 3 dimension of space and 1 dimension of time. Hence 4 dimensions of space-time. Sorry, I'm getting really physicsy. But I love the inclusion of fifth dimensional beings, which are evolved humans, and that everything had to happen because those fifth dimensional beings evolved from the people who were saved by fifth dimensional beings. And it's a loop. And it truly is love transcends space and time and gravity.
Let me stop you there. Are you trying to hurt me? For real?
No.
I hate the fact that you compare 2001 and Interstellar. I hate 2001. I still hate 2001. No, I did not see it when it was released. I'm not that old. But I love the book. The book, Arthur C. Clarke, is amazing. I hate the movie. Still,
I will.
And everybody loves it. I hate that movie.
Okay, I will absolutely agree the book is better than the movie. That'll probably get me killed in a few places. But I do think the book is infinitely better than the movie because it can explain so much that the movie misses. But I love the movie because the way the music is used and because it's for what it tries to be, it's really good.
You know the only thing positive that came out of that movie?
I'm scared. What?
It basically influenced and made Star Wars. That's it. That's it. That is it.
This is just going to be our fight. Brandon has Scarlet Spider, and you have 2001: A Space Odyssey.
You know that, and I
do.
It's not a bad movie. I just don't like it. It is amazing special effects, especially for the time. It definitely influenced Star Wars. I just hate that story. I hate it.
And yet you love the book.
The book. Well, that's what I mean. They didn't do what they did in the book. They took obviously a lot of elements and they had to cut it down. But
I mean, it's the same thing.
It's so amazing, and I can't even the short story. I just can't stand the movie because it's not the book.
No, and that's absolutely fair. But it's 2000. Interstellar is a space opera in every sense of the word. You can fight me all damn day, but it is a space opera, and that's where I think a lot of people misunderstood it. Is that they went to watch sci-fi, but they watched space opera and they didn't understand what was going on.
And even if you don't like the sci-fi element or whatever, you don't like sci-fi, if you don't shed a tear when he finally comes back to Earth and sees his daughter, who's now played by Ellen Bernstein, it's like, oh my Lord, like that interaction, phenomenal. And that's literally the moment's like, no, he is the one that saved the planet. He's the one that saved all the civilization. He's the one that did this, although I'm the one that gets credit for it. It's like phenomenal.
Oh my God. When he's leaving and he flips the blanket and she's not there, I was in tears. I'm like, you motherfuckers, we're not even like an hour in. And then an hour in,
she's chasing his truck, yelling and screaming. It's like, oh.
And then an hour in, when he gets the calls and he's crying.
All the actors in this movie, like you know Matthew McConaughey, that's the one that always pops up. And then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Matt Damon's in it. Okay, yeah, I forgot. Casey Affleck's in it. Oh yeah, I forgot. Ellen Bernstein in it. Oh yeah, I forgot. John Lithgow's in it. Oh yeah, that's right. Wes Bentley. Oh yeah. The voice of William Devane. Oh yeah, Michael Caine. Oh yeah, Anne Hathaway. Oh okay. And the one you hit today, I've seen this, and I've seen it rather recently, and totally didn't even recognize him. Timothy Chalamet. Oh, who's that?
And Topher Grace. You missed Topher Grace.
I'm like, oh my gosh, Jessica Chastain, Academy Award winner now. It's like, oh my gosh, like all these people, and you're like, holy cow, totally forgot. What the Fushnikins? Yeah.
So many I also learned the Tesseract was an actual set. I thought it was CG for the longest time. That was super cool to learn that the Tesseract
I remember you telling me that, and I'm like, that's impressive, but that also goes to Nolan and his I kind of say this tongue-in-cheek. He's a very film guy.
Yeah.
Analog, so to speak. Wants to shoot on film. Big fan of shooting on IMAX, which is nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful. I'm not necessarily adamant that it has to be that way because you're going to be watching this on your phone at some point, so it doesn't matter if it was on IMAX. If you're able to get to an IMAX theater, specifically a film IMAX theater, good for you. But that's such a snobbish way to look at it. And again, going to film school and having been with those snobs, it's like, I don't give a shit. A lot of people are going to be watching it on their phone, so I don't care what you use to film it with. It's going to be downgraded to a phone.
Oh God, you're not going to love it because I want to film a film with like the classic 50s. What's that color? Great. What is that? What's that film called in the 50s?
I'm not telling you.
I'll look it up anyways, but I've always wanted to shoot a film with like that vibrant film. It's such a pain in the ass to film with, but I'd love to film.
How would you know?
Because I've like watched videos about how hard it was to film with that shit.
Oh, so you never listened to me talk about it. You just went and did your own research.
Oh, did you want me to credit you?
Account.
Did you want me to credit you?
Yeah, I want the credit, damn it.
Oh, I'm sorry I want to film something with actual film at least once, Dad.
I understand that. And it is. I admit, I fully admit, shooting on film is beautiful. Watching film is beautiful. But my argument, and I know we're getting sidetracked here, is most of the population does not have the availability to go watch film. And to that, when you were growing up and watching films, it was degraded every single time it went through the projector. So it is not what the director wanted you to see. And depending on where you live, if you lived in LA, man, you got an amazing experience watching a very clean, crisp, properly put together film. If you grew up in Medina, Ohio, like I did, they didn't give a shit. They glued it, taped it together, threw it in the projector. That's what you got. Trust me, I know, because I worked in a movie theater. If it got caught, scratched, whatever, they just cut that part of the film out. So you missed 10 frames. 10 frames is not even quite a second of film.
It's a third of a
You
second.
add that up, you lose it. And let me tell you, when a film gets stuck in the projector and it just starts burning and it burns away, you could lose up to 30 seconds or whatever of film. So yeah, it could have been a key event or something going on. That's why I'm a big proponent of digital. Digital, you can watch anywhere. I love that you can see archived things and stuff that were on film, but I'm a big fan of digital because it opens up access to everybody, and you pretty much get to see exactly what the director wanted you to see because it's the first time. It's never degrading when it's digital. It's always the best, crispest. Granted, yes, analog is this spectrum, digital is this spectrum, so you are cutting things out, but you get to see it clean like the director wanted.
Yes, and you can always add in effects to like fake film. One of my examples, I just recently saw The Holdovers. I love that because it's filmed, I believe, on film, but then they transferred it to digital, and that's the only way I would film on film is if you got the actual film and then transferred it to digital and edited in digital. Because I don't know. I just like the look.
I don't know if you know that, but yes, things that are shot on film. 99%. I can't think of a major director that does edit still on film, but most everything is still transferred to digital.
Okay.
Edited digital, any special effects. And I'm not even talking about like CG. I'm talking about any special effects, cleanup, coloring, all that stuff. And then they will put it back on film, sent out to theaters that still have the film projector. So everything is put digital, but it is put back on film. So you do get that film feel, because there's a big difference to the feel viewing everything of a film versus seeing it digital. I fully recognize that, but for use and ease and all that, it is still edited digital. One of my favorite stories is Walter Murch, who was a great sound guy, but his editing style was he would use, if I remember correctly, 3 different film editors. That would be the Motorola, which you would stand up and watch, to the Steenbeck, which would be flatbed with the sound. And I can't remember that. Maybe he would just use a digital one too as he got older. But I just love that he would do all the processes to have the film go to film. But yes, they don't edit film wise anymore.
Okay. Yeah, I would not.
So cumbersome. So cumbersome.
Yeah,
once you cut the film, you are destroying the film in a sense because you cut it. Then you have to tape it back together. If at all you wanted to get that deleted scene back, you got to go through a huge process. It is destructive editing is what they call it. So yes, everything is cut into digital.
Yeah, I'll stick to editing on digital. Okay, but back to the main point. Wow, we lost it there. But Interstellar, I was taken aback that people didn't enjoy it as much as I thought they did the first time, which the more I think about it, the more I understand. And there's nothing wrong with that. Film isn't for everybody. Everybody has their own favorite movie, and that's just how it is. I love 2001: A Space Odyssey. My father, not his cup of tea. And then we'll turn around, and it's like, I can't think of a movie that you like that I don't care for. But it's like everybody has their own taste, and it is what it is. But
here's how sad it is. I like 2010 better than 2001.
It's not a bad movie.
I thoroughly enjoy.
And it's got John Lithgow. What can I say?
It does, and I love how they brought back a lot of. It's got Roy Scheider from Jaws. I love how they brought back what's his name, Dave from the first one. I love
Bowman.
I loved it. So I love 2010. I cannot stand 2001. I get it. Take my nerd card. Yes, I'm not the biggest Kubrick fan at all.
Hey, whoa.
Yeah.
If you're gonna sit here and demand to have your nerd card taken, I'll sit here and say I think Citizen Kane is dumb as shit. So take my nerd card too.
Yeah, you and I both agree on that one. But the other bit of weird news that's related to Christopher Nolan involves Guy Pearce. And this is one, I think we did it a flashback a long time ago with Memento. When the first Christopher Nolan
I need to rewatch Memento.
That stars Guy Pearce in one of the funniest scenes in a serious movie ever. Why am I chasing this guy? whoa, why is he chasing me? As
He's
shot
chasing
at
me. Huh.
Yeah, that's like awesome, hilarious.
Like that
not
movie
intentional.
made me laugh so hard, but then it also made me cry so hard. That's just how good it is.
Such a good movie. But we came, Guy Pearce is out doing the rounds with interviews, and it came out that he was blacklisted from Christopher Nolan, but not because of Christopher Nolan, because of Warner Brothers. And as you are hopefully aware, Christopher Nolan routinely returns to utilize actors that he's used before because he just likes working with them, having them in his films, and it comes off beautifully in a lot of his films. But the one standout who's an amazing actor was Guy Pearce.
Yes.
And apparently an executive of Warner Brothers hates Guy Pearce. I don't know if he still works there or not because they did not say his name. Hates Guy Pearce to the extent he will never work for Warner Brothers. And Guy Pearce was unaware of this till recently.
It's really a tragedy because I am, as an actor, I love being the jackass that's like, as an actor, I hate seeing this shit where it's like actors won't get hired for the dumbest fucking reasons. And it's like, what the fuck? An actor, as long as they can play the role well, it shouldn't matter. They should be in the role. And I get like something like Eric Stoltz, where the casting just didn't line up to what they wanted as they went on. And that makes sense. I mean, I don't know if his leave from Back to the Future was amicable.
It was.
But okay, but it made sense. It's like he just didn't fit the role, and that's okay. But it's like this shit where it's like, you didn't even really give Guy Pearce a chance. You just said, no more. And I mean, Guy Pearce was pretty reasonable about it, which I understand. But this hurts me to my soul because we could have had him in so many more Christopher Nolan movies.
Well, the big role that he mentioned that he was up for and did not get, now he knows why, was Ra's al Ghul. And it's hard for me to say that because Liam Neeson was so amazing in that role. I loved when he even came back. But as Guy Pearce, it's just such an intriguing idea. What would that have been like?
Not to mention, there was something about him being up for the Prestige. I would have loved to have seen him in the Prestige.
And again, it's like Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. Where would he have been? I don't know. I wouldn't want to replace either of those, but it's such an intriguing argument. If it was Christian Bale and Guy Pearce, or Guy Pearce and Hugh Jackman, it's like, that would have been amazing.
If he was up for Tesla, because he definitely could have pulled off Tesla, but David Bowie was just too good as Tesla.
Yes, cool. But I would have hated to lose that awesome role by David Bowie for such a small role with Guy Pearce.
Agreed.
Same with, if you were going to make the next argument with Andy Serkis, same thing. I really enjoyed seeing Andy Serkis in a live action role, and he did a phenomenal job as the assistant to Tesla. So yeah, I would have hated to utilize Guy Pearce and lose those cameos, so to speak, for great talent.
Yes, it sucks that he wasn't able to be a part of these movies, but the movies we got were still so incredible. It's kind of hard to complain. And it's nothing against Guy Pearce. He's such an incredible actor. Like The Time Machine, so good. He nails that. Iron Man 3, he did that so well.
LA Confidential, which I don't believe you have seen yet, was phenomenal. Him and Russell Crowe, which is funny that you didn't know this. Two Australians working together, and you didn't know that Guy Pearce was Australian.
No, that blew my mind.
But
same thing with Toni Collette. Hearing she was Australian, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've had that a couple times. Damon Lewis from Homeland, when he got an award, he was in Band of Brothers. I didn't watch that, but Homeland, when he went and got his award, he's Irish, and I'm like, what is that? Insane. But one of the early roles that I saw Guy Pearce in, and this is a movie I never in a million years, if you told me the description, I'm like, no, thank you. But it was not spoofed, but showcased on an episode of The Drew Carey Show. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So I'm like, okay, Drew Carey Show, Cleveland. What is this? I don't know. So I started watching it, and it is a very intriguing, odd movie, I believe set in Australia, I think produced in Australia, that has an amazing cast. And I was like, wow, this is good stuff. And one of the stars is Guy Pearce before his other roles.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that he got blacklisted, but I'm glad he's a little more amicable about it, and that it's like, I guess the executive just didn't get me. Oh well.
Well, and that's the funny part, because now he's like, with Christopher Nolan moving on from Warner Brothers, like, okay, well, maybe now we can work together again.
I really do hope he shows up in this new one because I know Anne Hathaway is confirmed to be returning. I hope Guy Pearce gets a role because that would be so good to see him back. But yeah, Nolan is definitely one of the filmmakers I aspire to be. I'm just bringing this up because it came to mind because he's just so passionate about what he does. He's an auteur, and as much as I hate that term because I think it's kind of dumb, I feel like he deserves it in a positive sense. And it's like Interstellar is such a good example of like his message. He's almost Hayao Miyazaki in that way, and that it's like one of my favorite quotes from Hayao Miyazaki, who, for the uninitiated, he does Studio Ghibli. One of my favorite quotes is that when he tells a story, he said, "I don't want to tell a story about two people who fall in love. I want to tell a story about two people who inspire each other to live." And I feel like that is exactly what Nolan does. He tells stories about people who inspire other people to live, to persist. And sometimes his stories are depressing as fuck. Memento is really depressing.
It is.
But there's still that inspiration to live. And that's like the auteur in Nolan, is that it's like there's a connected theme. And his films are so good. I don't know why I jumped to this.
Well,
But
and I'll jump further. Him and his brother, Jonathan, are amazing at world building. They've worked together on a lot of projects, and they work separately on projects. And to be honest, for a long time, I was like, maybe Jonathan's just riding on Christopher's coattails. And then he did Westworld. I'm like, nope, yep, blow me away. Amazing. So those two and the stories they came up with, and I honestly, I don't know if they still work together so much because they're both busy doing their own things. But oh my God, those two are so talented in the stories they come up with. It's ridiculous. And I would like to think I'm a smart person. Interstellar was able to keep up. Had to watch it several times to get everything, but man, it was good. Tenet, holy crap. Still watching, like, sure, okay, awesome. Yep. Oh, there it is. Didn't see that. Oh, forgot that. Whatever. So amazing. Even The Prestige. Every time I watch that, it's like, okay. And more so, Memento, like, I have got to watch the timelines to remember what's going on. And invariably, because I don't watch it all the time, I forget. They're like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's crazy. So mind-bending, his films. So mind-bending.
Absolutely. I can't believe we barely even got through like the first hour of Tenet with Mom. That was so funny.
I told you.
But she was also tired. We need to do it when she's not falling asleep.
Here's my apology video to my wife, Allison, James's mom. I totally set her up. He came home and they're like, oh, well, what do you want to watch? And I'm like, Tenet. Because Allison does not a big fan of like interdimensional Matrix.
But she loves fucking Terminator.
She loves them, but when I will always get her ire by, well, who was John Connor's dad the first time? And she's like, I hate that. It's like, yeah, because it's a time loop, and her brain melts, and she doesn't. I get it, and that's why I like to mess with her, and she loves me.
But where'd the apricot come from?
Exactly. Oh, Milo Murphy, such an underrated Disney movie or Disney TV show. But yeah, so we watched, and maybe was it an hour? I don't know.
I think we got like an hour in.
If I was like, I'm falling asleep, we need to turn it off because I don't know what's going on. Like, I know. Sorry, honey.
Yeah, but we need to watch it when she's not falling asleep. But it's like that to me feels like the new Interstellar, is that it's gonna have time, and then people are gonna finally understand it and glom onto it. Because it is a very good film. It is very much like Interstellar in the way that it approaches its story. It focuses on non-linear time in a linear fashion, and I think that's what broke people's brains. Is that it's not like Interstellar where it's still linear time. It's kind of like Memento where it's linear time experienced non-linearly, but it's the exact opposite where it's non-linear time experienced linearly, which is harder to do.
I will take it a step further because The Arrival to me makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense the way they do with time, and it's not a straight line. The difference in Tenet is they are interacting with this non-linear time and affecting it. So it's like, what the hell?
Yes,
I got to keep up with what's going on.
Time is fluid, and I do think that also broke a lot of people's brains. Jesus, I can speak. That you have time. It's much like DC's definition of time travel. Time travel influences both the past and the future. And I think that broke a lot of people's brains, that it's like, yes, they can send these items from the future to the past, and those things are experiencing time in reverse. So the best way to look at it is, well, one is heading this way through time, one is heading that way through time. And so as this goes backwards, you'll be moving alongside it forward through time, but it'll be moving backwards through time as you go forwards. And so it can exist in the same
that
space.
fight scene with David Washington. Oh my God, it's backwards.
Oh, where he's fighting himself.
Like, what? Yeah, that hurt my brain right there.
That one was definitely where it clicked for me watching it the first time. I saw the fight scene, like, whoa, that's good choreography. And then I watched it when it's the inverse, and I'm like, oh shit, I get it now.
Yeah. And just the timing, because I mean, it's not just that it's backwards, so to speak. It's the part of a bigger plan with the plane crashing to cause this. It's like there's a whole shit ton of things going on. So you're not just focused on, oh my God, it's backwards. It's like, no, they're trying to carry out this weird plan and it's backwards.
Exactly. And that's where the final scene, I do get a little frustrated sometimes with people who are like, no CG ever, because it's like, okay, but it is a good tool. But then I also love people who are like, practical effects. It's like Tenet's ending is the perfect example to me of like, this is what is good about practical effects. I do get a little irritated when I see some of the foot soldiers where it's like, you're clearly just walking backwards. You are not walking in reverse. This was not shot in reverse. But at the same time, it's like, it's still cool. Like the building blowing up and then reversing, that was brilliant. That was good filmmaking right there. But it's like that ending, you have to like be perfectly awake, perfectly coherent, and capable of understanding that the plot is working. It's all going as planned. And Robert Pattinson's character, that's the end of his journey. But it's the start of Washington's, and it's like...
And I would argue, and this is a great example, there are movies that need to be seen in theaters. And this came out during COVID, so it was shown in theaters, but then way too soon released on HBO, now Max. And it was a big stir because Christopher Nolan did not want that, but that's what happened. Maybe that's why he and Warner Brothers aren't working together. I don't honestly know. I don't remember. But I think some of the backlash to this movie was it was seen on TVs or phones. And it just, when you're not in the theater and you're at home, and say you have two kids, and say they're like my two kids, and they don't allow you to just watch the freaking movie. They're like, I gotta go to the bathroom. Can you pause it? I gotta go get something. Can you pause it? Walking in front of the TV, and then dogs barking. I'm just giving a general example. I'm not saying this actually happened. But when you're in the theater, you are clearly focused on one thing, and that's the movie. So that when you don't see this in the theater, and maybe you're on your phone or whatever, the distractions I talked about, you miss things. And holy crap, you miss 5 seconds of this film, you may have missed a key point that's like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
Absolutely. And I think that's definitely true of many modern films. It's why, like, I get so blown away when people are like, oh yeah, I don't watch movies much. And it's like, you have a fucking phone. You have a phone. You can do it anytime you want. And it's like, it almost hurts me to realize that it's like, it's because the modern era of streaming is more based towards short form content, and people just don't have the patience to watch a 2-hour film on their phone when they could be up and about with like a video essay about video games, doing other stuff. And it's like, it's tragic because it's in a way the death of film, but in a way it's like a great opportunity for filmmakers and the movie theater industry to really bring people back to the theater. Lower your prices, make movies a thing again, so people like have incentive to go to the movies.
Well, and that's sort of the other argument, though, and this was ages ago, where Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and even George Lucas were talking about. I'm sure there were others, but those are the ones I like. We're talking about movie theaters are going to be more comparable to a drama theater production, in that big movies will go to the theater. It will become an event where you go. You might pay a little bit more, but the seating will be better. the food and all that stuff that could potentially accompany it, and the experience itself will be better. And I think we need both.
Yes,
We need
absolutely.
those options, but I think that's kind of what we're saying with Tenet, or in my opinion. And I know people are like, oh, I'm so tired of comic book movies. Like, shut up. The bigger comic book movies, the Star Wars movies, those I think need to be seen on a big screen. And I'll even go to, I joke about this all the time, but it's not entirely true. I don't like watching subtitled movies in my house for a lot of the reasons I just said. But if I'm in a movie theater watching it, my attention is 100% on the screen. So if there's subtitles, it's a foreign film, I have no problem watching it. And I legitimately have seen a lot of fantastic foreign films. It's just me being at home. I can't give it the full focus. So if there's something that I'm supposed to read and I didn't see it, it's like, well, great. Now I didn't see that part of the movie. Whereas like Train to Busan, there's not a lot of dialogue. So it's okay. I saw the devil. Not a lot of dialogue. We're doing all right.
I can see that being the case. They definitely predicted that very well, because it's become almost like going to see a play where it's like, oh, let's all go get ready to go to the movies. Yes. But I miss going to the movie theaters with my friends is like a fun sit down experience, because that is part of what plays once were, going with your friends to watch people perform on stage. And there's nothing wrong with the change. I do think it is a wonderful way to finally have people see a film as like high art, because the way I look at it is there is no distinction between sitting down and watching a movie, reading a book, or playing a video game. They are all the same thing. You are intercepting art, and you are not doing anything productive towards work, but you are being productive towards a creative art. I am so frustrated that only books are considered high art in that respect, because it should be all three, as they are kind of the same thing in a way. Movies are just a watched version, and video games are an experienced version. I'm getting way too philosophical with this. It's just, I don't know. I miss going to the theater with friends and doing that. And I love that it's become a high art event, so to speak, and that we can go to a movie theater. There'll be recliners and it'll be like, ooh. But I miss the easy availability to go to the theater as well.
That would be interesting to, again, when we become billionaires and we could do this, have two styles of viewing experiences in our theater, where you have sort of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, where everybody could yell at the screen. It's a group effort and you're having fun. I'm thinking of like comedies and stuff like that. That would be great. I once saw CB4 in a Black dominated theater, and it was one of the greatest experiences ever. Yelling at the screen, laughing. I loved it. And it was opening night. I never really
even Endgame. Endgame was another great one with audience interaction. And I'd argue A Quiet Place, because holy fuck, that is the most quiet I've ever heard a theater.
Well, that would be the other experience that I would say, is that you go as almost like a play musical experience, where you would sit back and you were zip it, watch the full experience. There was no audience interaction. So that was more of the theater experience. I would be curious to have both of those available to me, and you knew going in, you're going this way or you're going this way. Because I can't stand when you go to see a movie and then everybody's yelling and like, shut up, or talking, like trying to watch the damn movie.
Exactly. I think that's great. And I'd love to see a lot more musicals with like sing-alongs where the entire audience can sing along. Because I feel like what's so great about Rocky Horror becoming like this classic interactive experience is that it builds a sense of community around a story and a movie. And that's such a fun thing you can do with so many musicals and other movies as well.
So I'm pulling you a fast one.
Oh, dear.
Why did we start this segment?
Christopher Nolan, and now we're on to the film industry.
I was literally like, what were we talking about? Anywho, so let us know your thoughts on Christopher Nolan and Guy Pearce if you want to add that. And definitely let us know your opinions on film, digital, analog, all of the above, movie theaters, home viewing, whatever you want. We love to listen. We obviously love to just talk nerds. So let us know in the comments below. Nerds out.